Good day to you. It's slightly windy. No rain much today anyway, but good enough day outside. It's the 7th of August, and this is the Energy Fad Meets Reality. And if you Google there, you'll get plenty of searches that'll reveal what I'm saying is correct. I did a very in-depth analysis, and I used my knowledge of financial accounting to try and explain to myself and then to others how there was something very strange about wind energy. And that something is that with this diagram we'll show you here, with ordinary fossil fuel energy, if you look at this one here, do you see here? You get an output in a year of about 85 to 90%. None of them gives the full 100%, very rarely. If they do 1 year, they have to be shut down for servicing. So you'd have a few of them lined up, but very few of them do the full thing. So 85, we'll say here, gives them the money. When they get paid, then they get paid for the 85% output. With Ireland's wind energy, EirGrid, the national management of the grid, told them they'd get 34% in their 2010 adequacy report. That was false. Anyone that looked up in the sky knew that was false. But funny enough, it did fool a lot of very, very astute financial people. 34, 85, over a year. This is actually the best they get, about 20% if they're lucky. Okay, now do you understand that? The fossil fuel gets about 85% output. The promise for windmills was 34, and the actuality was 20%. And this was all over the papers and printed about all sorts of things. They never stopped talking about it. Now, with wind farms, you have your expenses here, you have your interest or your whatever financial arrangement you have here, and you have to pay back the facility over 20 years. Most of the planning permissions are over 25 years. But anyway, they get obsolete because they keep telling the companies that if you make a bigger windmill, you'll do better. But they don't actually, because it's the area that's swept, not the size of the turbine. Now, I had been saying for years about wind wake, and now they're suing each other because one wind farm out in the sea here is robbing the wind of one downstream. They're suing each other. I had that in my dossier years ago. Nobody'd listen. So you see, they have to pay these expenses and get the wind farm paid off in 20 years. But the output is only 20%. So how can the conventional fossil fuel plant with an output of 85% meet its expenses just about and get by, and the windmills with 20% do the same? And the answer is they can't. And I'm going to read a few articles here. Here's an article on a website called Oil Price. Germans no subsidy offshore wind auctions flops with no bids. But they don't tell you what the subsidies are. In Ireland, and it's roughly the same everywhere, the subsidies are that the wind energy gets paid the highest fossil fuel in the grid price. It's linked to fossil fuel. If the fossil fuel prices drop, and there's none of them too high, they get a guaranteed floor price. In Ireland, it used to be 69 euros a megawatt. It's about 7 or 8 now, and they get a top up then of around 7 to 8%, bringing the total about 4 years ago to 76 euros a megawatt hour. It's now probably about 92. So they have a floor price, and then if the price of the fuel goes up, they get the price of the fuel. So you never gain from the drop in fuel prices. And that is, I'm the only channel that makes that known. All the other mediums are lying. They just lie straight to your face. They know this. Been told it by me. So it says here, Germany's latest offshore wind auction without government subsidies failed to attract a single bid. So there's no guaranteed price now. They have to bid into the market, and once that happens, they make nothing. Now, the Federal Networks Agency auction of 10.1 gigawatts of that's a lot of wind, offshore wind in Germany, part of the North Sea, ended with no investor submitting a bid. So the auction was a flop. Okay, the auction was a flop. So the association they have says, the Wind Energy Association, BWO, sees the failed auction as an alarming signal that calls on the German government to fundamentally reform the auction design. And what they want is, if you read into it, they want contracts for differences. In other words, you should be able to put up your wind farm now and pay for it in a year's time. Meanwhile, you sell it on to some other mug. Now, in Ireland, a Norwegian company, Statecraft, Norway's awash with money, are buying distressed green core wind farms. Okay, the share price for Irish green core renewables is 77. I've just checked it there on 2 websites. Now, they cost the buyers 100 cent or 100 cent each, a euro, and they're getting 77. And that's the way for years. There's no improvement there at all. And there can't be. There's an odd idiot company like Statecraft buying them, but there's still not enough. And banks and financial institutions have loaned money to them, and they can't get it back unless some other company with a ball of money comes in and buys them. Now, here's an article by Reuters, London. Australia's Macquarie, MACQUARIE, has cancelled the sale of one of the world's largest wind power developers due to lack of interest. 2 people with knowledge of the process said, amid opposition against the renewable energy source by the Trump administration. But Trump has rolled back on some of that. But the problem they have with Trump is not so much that he won't let them build them, but he won't guarantee them the huge subsidies which are driving prices and industry out. And doing the same in Europe and in Ireland, the industries are just closing up because they can go, whereas the ordinary householder can't. Macquarie engaged advisors last year to find a buyer for Corio Generation, which oversees 25 gigawatts. That's a lot. A gigawatt, that's a lot. GW, pipeline offshore wind project spanning Europe, Asia Pacific and Americas. Pipeline must mean they haven't them built yet. And you'll hear people on here, oh, they're building one now, it's going to cut out all oil. You see them on here, the posters. It's always going to, but it's never did. It's always a promise. Live horse and you'll get grass. Pipeline of offshore wind projects spanning Europe, Asia Pacific and the Americas. Reuters reported in October. The sources spoke on condition of anonymity because they were not authorised to speak publicly. Well, there you are. Isn't that a red flag straight away when you can't speak your mind? Instead, it will downsize the project, giving challenging market conditions in the offshore wind sector. Corio Generation is refocusing its global operations to prioritise the development of smaller portfolio projects which have the clearest route through the construction. And that's the like of Ireland, where you have the like of Micheál Martin and Simon Harris, who are idiots, and the industry's closing up all over the place. So that's it. So a spokesman for it declined to comment. So it's facing increasingly challenging conditions. Okay. I'm beginning to suspect that nobody actually told this scam, only myself. Unbelievable. Nobody could get their heads around it. I don't understand that. No bids for offshore wind farm auction. So now, and no new offshore wind project contracts have been bought by developers at the key government auction, dealing a blow to Europe's renewable energy strategy. That's, sorry, my mistake, to the UK's renewable energy strategy. So now we have Germany, Australia and the United Kingdom. Results showed no bids for new offshore wind farms, but there were deals for solar, tidal and onshore wind projects. Well, the solar and the tidal, they're all experimental. They're a scam as well, but the investors are easily fooled. Now, they say onshore wind. Onshore wind is going on a bit as well. I mean, it's harder to stop, but still, they're making no money either, or very little, and we'll come back to that. Firms have argued the price set for electricity generated was too low. So there is your answer to your high electricity prices, right? The companies that has their snouts in the trough say they want more of your money. It's not government money. Firms have argued the price set for electricity generated was too low to make offshore wind projects viable. So if they got enough, if they really ramp up the price, and in Ireland we have a quarter in arrears of bills, and all these lads want to know, let them go to hell, give us more. And you see, as lesser and lesser people are able to pay their bills, the remaining ones are going to have to pay an exorbitant amount. I've been on about that before. The government said a global rise in inflation impacting supply chains had presented challenges for projects. Well, you have to buy them. And I go back to my thing again. A wind farm costs more than a conventional plant. Conventional plants on land, 4 acres will generate all you need for a big city. But the wind energy only has this output here. But it still costs the same. It has all the running costs and everything. And the shareholders like to get their bit as well. Where is it going to come from? You either let them go wallop, or the government is on the phone every day, you increase the price of electricity and the various payments. And I did a video already showing how it works. As the price of oil goes up, they bring down the subsidy a little. As the price of oil goes down, they put up the subsidy. So you never get any relief, okay? It said while offshore and floating projects, So it said, sorry about the interruption, it said while offshore floating and wind projects did not feature in the agreed deals list, the outcome was in line with similar results, including Germany and Spain. Now, I didn't check it in Spain. So the Department of Energy and Net Zero, this now is in the UK, this is a BBC report, said significant numbers of solar power, onshore wind and tidal energy schemes, and for the first time geothermal projects. I mean, where are they getting the geothermal in the UK? It's any old thing at all, pump money into it, which use heat from the ground to generate power, have been awarded funding, and that's a scam. That's in Iceland. But the lack of offshore wind will be a blow to the pledge to deliver 30 gigawatts of offshore wind by 2030, compared with 14 gigawatts today. So that's 14 to 50. So who's going to pay for that? Renewable energy groups have said that alternative renewable projects such as solar cannot do the heavy lifting. Oh, the wind's going to do heavy lifting. You see, heavy lifting. In other words, this is what the wind has, this bit. That's what it'll lift. And this is what the coal, oil and gas will lift. To do the heavy lifting. You see, it's just lies. Just plain lies. So they're saying that the wind is going to do the heavy lifting. And it admits that, just to read that again, the renewable groups have said the alternative renewable projects such as solar cannot do the heavy lifting in generation, the power that offshore wind does. So why are they building solar? Why are they putting in solar when the leaders of and the spokespeople for wind tell us wind doesn't work? Does that make a little sense to you? The technology has been described as the jewel in the UK's renewable energy crown, but firms have been hit by higher costs for building offshore farms. It's not the higher costs. It's that the output is only 20%, no matter whether it's on or offshore, and they can never pay back their money. And if they can't persuade banks to give them money, they can't build. But they'll not admit that. For building offshore wind farms, with materials such as steel and labour being more expensive. It's expensive for the bill payer. Do the British government realise at this stage that what I'm saying is true? I don't know. The UK is a world leader in offshore wind. That's a bit much. And is home to the world's 4 largest farms, supporting tens of thousands of jobs. Tens of thousands. Do you know how many people are employed in Rah wind farm at 11 megawatt output? 0. It's all the Ireland's wind farms are managed from an office in Cork, and they just call in for the post every couple of days. None. But there would be staff up and down fixing them. So what they're saying here, a world leader in loss making wind farm, supporting tens of thousands of jobs. And you still get rid of no fossil fuel, and you still have to pay the money to turn off as it is. Before they build any, you have to turn them off. Which provided 13.8% of the UK electricity generation last year, according to government statistics. In other words, whatever it produces and whatever it offers, and even they can't take it and have to pay to turn it off, they say, it's 13%. And the half of that could have been paid to turn it off and generate nothing. And there's no mention of what it achieves, or the fact that the price it gets, or that you still need the conventional generation running there the same as ever. And there was a post by a man there who said he knew somebody working in one of those Irish places, distribution centres for electricity, and they still leave the oil and coal and gas running. It's running there, even though the wind is blowing, and it's producing nothing. So you have the wind farms producing nothing half the time and getting paid, and you have the conventional coal, oil and gas running, producing nothing as well. So when the wind is blowing, the coal, the oil and gas is running, but no connection to the grid. And when the wind dies down, the coal comes on, and this is producing nothing. And if too much of the wind comes on, they pay it to turn off, constrained payments. So we'll just finish up now. The government annual auction invites companies to bid to develop renewable energy projects and contracts to supply the UK grid with electricity. The scheme ensures projects receive a guaranteed price. See that? See, they wouldn't tell you how much it is, you see, I tell you, from the government for the electricity they generate. It's not from the government. It's from the bill payer and industries. The government pays nothing, which is hoped will enable companies to have the confidence to invest. Well, the American companies thought that till Trump got in. The deal, called Contracts for Difference, means that if electricity prices are above the set price, right? If electricity prices, that's conventional power, above the set price, the companies pay the excess back to the energy suppliers, which would help to cut bills. Now we'll just read what they're saying here again. The deal, called a Contracts for Difference, means that if electricity prices are above the set price. Now, is that electricity prices for coal, oil and gas, wind or all, or solar? What do they mean if the electricity prices are above the set price? That proves that they're getting the full price for the highest electricity source in the grid. So if only a ton of coal is used, and it's 500,000 a ton, or a megawatt hour, the wind gets that. So what they apparently are trying to do here is the deal, called Contracts for Difference, means if electricity prices are above the set price, so that's the guaranteed price. In Ireland, that's 69 cent plus 7 of a fixed thing. The companies pay the excess back to the grid. So up to now, they keep it. They were allowed to keep it. Do you get my point? Up to now in Ireland, if the price of electricity went up to 90, the wind companies could claim 90 and keep it. It appears this thing, Contracts for Differences, means they have to pay back the difference between that and the floor price. And that means a cut in their profits, which would help to cut bills. It would, but it helps to cut the income of the wind company. If prices fall below the guaranteed price, the energy suppliers and the consumers pay the company the difference. So I'll read that again. If prices fall below the guaranteed price, the energy suppliers, that's the ones that are your customer, the public, and customers pay the company the difference. So if coal, oil and gas went down to 30, the public, the bill payer pays the oil, the wind energy, the 69 cent or whatever the present floor price is. So the price of oil falls below. I had that out to you now last year. I said that in my dossier 4 years ago. So here now the public are only finding out this, and I had this a year ago, and I've been telling you this several times. So what they're trying to do is such a scandal that they want the wind companies only to get the guaranteed price, no matter what happens. So that it doesn't matter whether the oil goes up or down, they get the guaranteed price. And that means they go broke. And the customer pay the difference. It was hoped offshore wind is the latest round would have helped generate 5 gigawatts of power, enough to run 5 million homes. That's all Wiggum. That means nothing, 5 million homes. But wind farm builders had warned for months that the government was not taking into account how much. What was it not taking into account? How much the government. How much the cost of developing them had soared. Industry insiders told the BBC that the £44 per megawatt hour price floor set for the latest auction failed to take account of the higher costs. So in Ireland it's 69. It was 69 euros last year. It's about 74 now. In Britain, I'd say the floor price was about, with the difference in sterling, I'd say it was about 58. That meant they got a guaranteed price of 58. If the price of coal, oil and gas went up to 300, they got 300. So they made a bit of money. But now in this auction, somebody got their pencil out and said, all we're going to give you as a guaranteed price is 44. And you're not getting any increase if the price of coal, oil and gas goes up. And so there's no bids at all. Have I explained that? Have I explained that fairly well? You have to admit, folks, I give it to you proper, and there's the reports there on the have the laptop here. Isn't that fairly good? So in Ireland they were getting 69, probably about 78 now. I didn't get time to look. They get a top up of about €7, 7% on that. So 69 and 70, 76. And that's gone up now with inflation, possibly to about 86. Right? If the price of fuel goes up, they get the increased fuel price. In the UK, it's the same, except it's adjusted for the sterling. It's a slightly different price. And so I don't know what the guaranteed price was, but we'll say it was 58. And then if the price of fuel went up to 300, they got 300. So no matter whatever happened, the wind, if the fuel was high, they got paid and made money. If the fuel was low, they got the guaranteed price. That notional price that I'm giving you of 58 is now cut down to £44 sterling. And at £44 sterling, they are facing all these costs with only this output. So with the present situation, they're broke, and with the new situation, they're busted, what the fellow said. So with a fossil fuel plant, you have your expenses, you have your interest on your loan and your other financial expenses, and you have as long as you like to pay. You're not restricted. So with the wind, you have the same. You have and just again with the fuel, there's your interest, there's your expenses, and you have as long as you like to pay, because you still have the ground and all there. You have residual value. All you have to change is the generator or fix the bearings in it. Just like owning a shop, a shoe shop, you still own the shop. You still own the shop once it's if you stop trading. So if you took a loan out to buy the shop and you trade it for your lifetime, and then you sell the shop, or you want to sell it, you get paid for the shop, or so it's some value, right? But with the shop, you have full money coming in. But with the windmills, you only have a 20%. And then if we look at the wind thing here, the parent company carries the cost. So you have the expenses, you have the interest, and you must pay it back in 20 years. And all you're getting is 20%. So you cannot pay it back. So what they're doing is they're not paying back. The parent company carries the cost. And they got statecraft Greencoat Renewables to sail in and buy them when they were failing, when they were all making a loss. I did a dossier on that. Making no money, making a loss. They were eaten into what they should have been putting by to pay the capital cost. In other words, they should have been paying their interest, their expenses, and enough to do the decommissioning and to have it all paid off after the 25 years, or whatever it was. And when they couldn't do that, they took away the payment for the windmills. They paid the capital cost. They never paid that back. And they can't pay it back. So that's hanging there. And up to now, they're able to get the likes of National Toll Roads, ESB, Electric Ireland, SSE Electricity. They're able to get them to bail them out. ESB bailed out Derrybrain Wind Farm before there was any trouble about it for 10.1 million. So they're able to bail them out. So how long more can companies ride up with a white horse and buy the wind farm and bail it out forevermore? And when they do that with the big offshore projects, there's a risk when they go into the markets looking for money, the markets will say, well, sure, we have these ones here, we're bailing them out. So it's like people buying a crappy car, a bad car. Eventually everyone finds out they're not good cars, a particular make, and to stay away from them, and the market collapses. So they were all fooled by all this happy talk. And now the reality is creeping in. Eddie O'Connor's Mainstream Renewable Power, he died, but it was in big trouble the last time I saw. So reality is biting in. It'll be the same with electric cars. Everyone thinks now, oh, they were great. Now they're beginning to wonder, I wonder, are they? Oh, there's this, that, and the other. You see that? It's just a novelty effect. And it's dying away. And then as they do that, Vladimir Putin says, hey, here's a great chance. They have no way of making weapons. And they have no way of making aircraft and all that. And so he attacks Ukraine, and then they look at Port Talbot and Scunthorpe Steelworks in Britain, and they have to bail them out with taxpayer money after them putting them out of it in the first place. And Europe and Germany is gone too with all this stuff. They simply just cannot count. I really should do a video on how to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then that's 1, 0, that's 10. That's how stupid these people are. We'll see you back soon, folks. It's just the news, but that doesn't mean we're out of the woods. They'll do whatever it takes to destroy Ireland, Britain, and Germany, and to get us into the war. And if we're starving with the hunger, sure, it'll only take our children. We'll have to join the military and get shot by the Russians. Okay, we'll see you back. Thank you very much.